Good afternoon and welcome to the VERICI DX PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd like to hand you over to Sarah Barrington, CEO. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Did you say you were going to do a poll?
That's already gone out there, Sarah, so
Great, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Then we can get started. So welcome everybody. This is just a strategic update, and obviously off the back of last week's announcement, I'm sure there's quite a lot of interest in understanding a little bit more about that announcement. What we'll do in this presentation is we've got a number of, if you like, crib notes, a refresher for anybody that would like that. I will be quick through that so that it won't dominate the whole presentation. We will then talk, obviously there's a number of other updates that I think it's worth just mentioning, and then obviously we'll finish on the Thermo deal and then take Q&A afterwards. So. Okay, just to give an overview of the company. Obviously we are a kidney transplant diagnostics company. We do have an offering of 3 clinical products, and then we have our aspect as almost a data science company. We have a 4th product in terms of what we call the research asset, and we'll be giving an update on all of those. Into kidney transplants diagnostics, you're really looking at quite a large problem for clinicians as they manage transplant patients. If you think about it, it's quite an alien treatment. You're putting in an organ that the body doesn't recognize. So the immune system that's normally your best friend is the transplant's worst nightmare. And the way that they treat it is to use immunosuppressive therapies. Even with that, they recognize that anywhere up to half of their patients are going to have something going on. That doesn't all lead to rejection, but it does lead to a need for the clinician to intervene or to manage their patients very closely. That leads to for diagnostics, a large amount. We've estimated that to be a $5 billion addressable market. We have seen our competitors go anywhere up to 10 billion. So, between billions, what we can say is this is a large addressable market. We have an underlying technology. I'd like to say we modernized the field. This technology is based on RNA signatures, that's very a great move towards precision medicine. And on that basis of the platform technology, 3 products that cover the end-to-end transplant cycle for patients. And with that, it provides a high degree of data and precision for the clinicians in that management. We haven't come out of nowhere. This has been a 10-year development cycle, well published already in the research work, and then transferred into VERICI. And then obviously we've been public now 3 years, and in that time 2 products have been put through the validation studies, 1 commercially launched, 1 licensed, and the 3rd product will be coming out of validation studies next year and the year afterwards. We talk about the therapeutic dilemma for clinicians. That's something that we addressed all the way through the transplant journey. Pre-transplant, they're looking and they have very little information for in that area. And post-transplant, there is a number of cases missed by the standard of care and being addressed by cell-free DNA, which is the what I like to call measuring the debris of the blood after damage has occurred, gives you partial information. And the reason that this is a therapeutic dilemma is clinicians understand with the immunosuppressive treatment that they give their patients post-transplant, if they do too little, they'll lose the graft. If they do too much, you're suspending the immune system and you're making your patient vulnerable to viral infections. That was a big thing in COVID, but drug toxicity issues and obviously underlying conditions. So what we're looking at is our technology is plugging the gaps in that knowledge for clinicians, where they've either got no information or partial information. How do we do that? We have 3 standalone products. They do also, early data suggests they also inform one another, but we're launching as 3 individual products, and they're answering 3 different questions. Clarava, pre-transplant, how aggressive or benign is the patient's immune system likely to be with a transplant? Very important information in terms of the level of drug treatment post. Tutivia is early acute rejection. That's just, for example, anywhere in the first 12 months. That question is, how probable is it that the patient's actually suffering rejection rather than anything else? And is the body able to deal with it, or does the clinician need to intervene? And thirdly, long-term outcome, the biggest threat in that area is fibrosis. Protega is designed to look at the risk stratifying the patients in terms of those that are fast and aggressive progressors and those that are not. And again, needing clinical intervention. Our 4th product, we'd like to remind everybody, is the, data or the research asset. One of the things that we try to do is look for validation cohorts. When we were doing our product development, we would have liked to do our clinical trials in pre-existing biorepositories. There weren't anything that we could use. We recognise this is a huge area, and if you want to pick up the pace in innovation, having a sample bag that's very well curated with patient outcomes and collected over time longitudinally would be very valuable. That's what we've done. That's how we designed our study. We collect blood, urine, and tissue. We do sequence all of that. We do have that matched to the patient data, and we do digitize the pathology slides as well. There are quite a few techniques, AI techniques, that will pick up trends on those that the human eye cannot see. So very well curated set, derived from samples from patients over 14 countries, Europe, the US, and Australia, and quite diverse demographics as well. So when we talk about the physical samples or even the data, this is all part of what we call the 4th asset. It's really where we're becoming a sort of data science or innovation hub. And this enables us to say, okay, we may have the physical samples that would command premium pricing because it's so well curated. And obviously, the data that's available to us once we've done the sequencing at deep depths is enormous and ripe for innovation. We've always said that that's not only for us, but also for collaborators and other people in the field, both for pharma and other diagnostics companies. And obviously, we'll return back to this as not something that we can't often make many announcements about. Research is rather stealthy. Nobody really wants to show their competition what they're working on. But when we have a material transaction like the Thermo deal, we're able to point to that and show that this is a revenue center all in itself, and we are focused on monetizing that. Just to give you a quick update before we get into the Thermo deal structure, Tutivia, I think we gave an update only a few months ago when we were saying the pain of CMS confusion was over in our estimation. We were seeing increased momentum, and certainly in the last quarter, I've seen even more. We continue to get positive clinical feedback, but we're also probably able to treble our number of centres now. We'll definitely see the benefit of that in next year's figures. We're seeing an awful lot of increased awareness, and obviously we continue to do activities in terms of publications, speakers bureaus, so on and so forth. All of that goes to the adoption support that's needed in the marketplace, and we're seeing a pickup on that. Publication is imminent. We're expecting that very shortly. We'll give an announcement when that's done. Probably post Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving the States. But look out for that. And obviously that then triggers us able to, that's the last piece of the pie, as it were, for the local coverage determination application. So that will be put in the next few weeks, and we look forward to getting that in the next year. Pre-transplant we'll cover with the Thermo Fisher deal, but obviously that was a deal that was done very fast after the validation. That was back in July, so we're delighted to make that announcement so promptly. And then obviously one of the things that's appealing in a fast timescale to commercial launch and is the reimbursement. That price has not been challenged. We expect that to publish. That's both for Tutivia and Clarava. And we can expect that to be crosswalked over to Protega when that's ready. It was above market expectations. It is valid for 3 years, and it gives us great deal of room to operate, while still being under the published price on our competitive products. Always good to know that innovation leads to IP protection. We did license a very comprehensive patent portfolio from Mount Sinai, the original licensing deal. We continue to add to that. I think it's very important to be able to ring fence your original portfolio. And it does two things. First of all, it makes it wider and more deep in terms of the protection, but it also elongates the life. We've just filed 3 new patents in the last 2 weeks. When they issued, got 20 years on that. But we did get from our core portfolio 2 US patents issued this year, and it's just nice to see that whole portfolio expanding and ticking over. You will see announcements about the lab and compliance and accreditation. It may not be the most exciting thing to investors, but in terms of underpinning our commercial launch and credibility, it's an important thing. Hospital groups do look to see how you're progressing in that area with all the accreditations and quality metrics. Obviously, we become a send-out lab, and they want to know that they're sending out to well-established labs, and we continue to add to our layers of quality metrics there. We did talk about the Speakers Bureau. I am delighted to say that we are attracting very high-quality clinicians who enjoy innovation, enjoy talking to the other community, and are seen as leading lights in that area. And I'm delighted to be making inroads there. And then obviously we'll be talking about the fourth asset and the progress we've been doing in terms of making that a revenue centre. Okay, so let's talk about the Thermo deal. Obviously one of the things that we were able to do was to align ourselves with a company that has probably the best reputation in the pre-transplant space. They pioneered the brand underneath Thermo Fisher. The company is called One Lambda. In the transplant space, actually has probably more brand appeal than even the Thermo name, and that's pretty comprehensive. And that's because the founder actually pioneered what we call HLA testing. That's when you're in pre-transplant, we look at the match between an organ and the patient. It's been around a little while now, but they pioneered and they hold a dominant position in that. And their sales force are obviously seen to be at the forefront of that area, the pre-transplant area. So we were delighted that first of all, our pre-transplant product, which they recognised there was nothing else like it in the marketplace, will be integrated into their portfolio. And obviously, it enables us to have confidence that they will hit the ground running. They already have the pre-existing infrastructure. They already have the contacts. They're already talking to the right people. And that's a delightful situation in terms of being able to launch a novel product such as our own. Obviously, we recognise that their education, their sales force will also lay the groundwork for us in terms of the education for the base technology, the RNA signatures, the importance of that, the flexibility and the comprehensive nature of the information being given to clinicians. It's not just us talking about that now in the marketplace, and it extends our reach. I like to think about it as all boats float. And obviously, for us, this was hugely exciting to be able to provide focus in that area, but also to share that education of the marketplace. Another part of the deal, which was important for us, was the monetization of our biorepository. This obviously, I will say that, for us, this is an asset that's probably been undervalued at the moment. And it's nice for us to start pointing to that and say that this is an important part of the company. And at this point, I'd like to touch back on that and the importance of what that enables us to do going forward. Obviously, sorry, the slides just didn't work. Obviously, if you've read the press release, you'll know that how it was structured was a exclusive license on the Clarava. That means that what we're doing is we are taking that test and we are actually transferring it into their lab. They've got a new 16,000 square foot facility they've opened up precisely for this kind of testing. And so we'll transfer it into that and they will take it from there. They will first focus on the US, and obviously they have optionality in terms of how they approach the global market there afterwards. I think that's a very exciting proposition for us with their credibility. And so far, they moved very, very swiftly after the validation. That was also, hugely gratifying to us that it was something they had been following for a while. And we're interested to see how that validation worked out, and obviously they moved fast after that. The urine samples, it is a non-exclusive. It is not the whole sample. They've just taken an aliquot. It is obviously a premium type of sample. Comes with all of that data. That's something they recognise, and it enables us to also think about how we use that material ourselves and any other collaborations that we choose to do in that area. But I think that's hugely reassuring to investors that fourth asset truly does have value for us. And obviously, we do look forward to having an increasing presence in our revenue mix as that goes forward. We're not able to disclose the full deal details, so we compromised on just showing the cash over the next 12 months. I think that's really the main interest for investors at the current time. We total that for 5 million. There are a lot of payments post that time. We've put forecasted that to be in 25, although that could be in 24. But we're not relying on that. And then there's a revenue stream. They are keen to launch in Q2 of 24, and we are keen that they do so as well. For us, that could bring in royalty as early as Q3. And then obviously what that does is that really is now an income stream that hits the bottom line directly. There's not much support that we need to give for that. It's not like, we're running it in our lab or anything like that. So that's the outline of the deal. And then I'm going to just conclude at that point so that we can get into the Q&A session.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed for the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just while the team take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I'd like to remind you that recording the presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. So as you can see, we've received a number of questions, both pre-submitted and throughout today's presentation. Thank you to all the investors for submitting those. If I may, could I ask you just read out those questions and give responses where appropriate to do so, and I'll pick up from you at the end.
Great. Yes, the first pre-submitted question was rather long, so if you don't mind, I'm going to paraphrase it. If I do it badly, I do apologise. But obviously, I think there's a lot of interest in terms of, and then what? Clearly, as we see Thermo Fisher having an interest in being outside of and extending their reach beyond pre-transplant, they actually have other assets that take them out of the pre-transplant space into the end-to-end testing. We see their vision of that. We recognise that they're a company that like to get to know other companies, and we hope that this is the first of deals. And obviously there is a an interest in various mechanisms that they can be working with us in the future. And I think that, I like the idea of getting to know us. I like the fact that they're working in an area that they are well known for, their brand works well, and I would be excited to work with them in the future as well. Paul, I'm not actually seeing any questions come up. Is there anything you want me to read out there?
I wasn't sure if you had any additional ones that were pre-submitted. I'm just having a look now. Let me just see if they come through. Bear with me one moment. I believe you may have to hand a couple of additional questions that came through earlier on today that were pre-submitted. I don't know if they're to hand at all right now. If not, we'll just see if the further questions come through on the Q&A tab.
I see a question about the length on royalties. Obviously, in the interest of confidentiality, I actually can't answer that question, so I do apologise. Let me talk about the cash runway. Obviously, we were delighted to be able to have a cash infusion into the company from this deal. What we've done is forecasted the company on a sort of status quo basis. So if we operate in a very logical extension of what we've been doing right now, which has been reasonably conservative, and also recognizing that the mix of expenditure will be now seeing clinical trial costs go down, but also an increase in the sales and commercial team to support the Tutivia revenue generation. On that basis, where we keep to the monthly burn, roughly speaking, where we've been, we forecast at the end of 24 and quite likely to go beyond that. So for us, this is obviously quite a freeing opportunity to extend that runway, and we're delighted that was something that we came back to the market to announce. Are there minimum volume requirements as part of the deal, and how large is the opportunity? So let me talk about the opportunity. There are, if you look at just the US, there are about 25,000 transplants done annually. What we do see is Clarava really being seen as a one test per patient, certainly in the short term. That's what our data is focused on. So your addressable US market is 25,000 transplants. What we do see is where you have novel technology, you can expect a high penetration into that market. As long as there is a need and as long as it's novel, we've seen companies in other fields and other areas, but in healthcare, have a sort of market share of anywhere between 50 and 80%. It's very hard to get 100%, obviously. There are also people that will do nothing, but let's assume it's somewhere between 50 and 80%. There is no signs of any other kind of developments in this area, certainly no clinical trials. And obviously, if they execute well and get that position, that could be very fast. So I would say that's the initial size of the deal, and what we could expect there. And then obviously, as the US market matures, they probably have a look at the global market, and you can take it from there. Globally, there's about 100,000 done every year. So that gives you a sort of sense of the size of that opportunity. The minimum volume requirements, no, we did not put that in, but I can, because we have a very fast timeline for that transfer and their stated adoption and launch plans for next year. When do you expect VERICI to turn profitable? I think if you're asking under the current, situation, then we could see that in the next few years. I think, realistically, we have a number of choices available to us. You can be profitable on your commercial launch and just do that. That may not yield your best value for the company ultimately if you have other assets that you need to develop and launch and develop. So for us, we do have a series of other things that we would like to pay attention to, rather than just focusing in on one product and commercializing that to profitability. So a little harder to answer. Excuse me. I'm not trying to be cute there. It literally is. I think perhaps if we looked at it per product, that might be easier. And then obviously, as you're looking for sizing out the market, Tutivia is, we've always assumed that we would have 3 per patient. That may be moderate. I think if we go to the data out on monitoring claims and adoption there, you might see a bigger market that's currently available to other technologies. And you can see that it doesn't take very long at a reimbursement of 26.50 for those numbers to ramp up into a significant number. We are still a small company. We're currently 14 people. We've been very conservative with our cash and our growth. And so, if we continue to do that on status quo, you can see that quite quickly. I don't see us doing anything in terms of explosive growth anyway. It's not the right market for that. And quite frankly, we've been very efficient with our capital and we continue to do so.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for addressing those questions from investors. And of course, the company review any further questions that do come in and we'll publish responses where appropriate to do so. Sarah, before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to you and the team, if I could just ask you just for a few closing comments, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm just delighted to come back to the market with this news to give everybody an update on something that, is, I think, provides something of interest and a shining light in the marketplace. This has been a tough market. There aren't many deals going on. I was delighted that we were able to pull this together and in such speed and with such a great partner. And ultimately, I'm delighted by the endorsement of our credibility as a player in the marketplace, and I'm looking forward to 2024.
Fantastic, Sarah. Thank you indeed for updating investors today. Can I please ask investors not to close the session, as you'll be automatically redirected to provide your feedback, in order the team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete and is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of VERICI DX PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation and good afternoon to you all.